Hi, my name's Joe McPhee, and this is the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame inductee profiles. And my guest today is Gladwyn Scott. Gladwyn was born in 1932 in the small hamlet of McConnell, just north of Hamiota. He was a valuable player with McConnell, Cardale, Foxwarren, Hamiota, Miami, Carmen. He coached for 38 years, and his bantam, juvenile, junior teams won several provincial crowns. He was coach of Canada's Pan Am Games team in 1967, and he was general manager of Canada's youth teams at World Championships in 87, 88, and 89. He was president of the Manitoba Baseball Association from 1983 to 87, and he was the Manitoba Baseball Association's Volunteer of the Year in 1996. He's a member of the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. He was inducted into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in 2008, and he was inducted into the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame in 1998. Welcome, Gladwyn.
Thank you, Joel. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks. Tell us a little bit about your career growing up in McConnell as a start in baseball. How did you get involved in baseball?
Well, we lived on a farm there, and in those days it was farming and baseball. And we had a small community team, and certainly my dad was the manager of the team and the catcher, so he was kind of the boss. And he was a great motivator, and a couple other guys that played with us there in McConnell, Murray Richardson and Ab Richardson. Murray was a left-handed pitcher. He played in the Brooklyn Dodger organization for a few years, and Ab Richardson was a well-known ball player and umpire. In fact, those three guys that I consider had a big influence on my life were all inducted into the Hall of Fame in our first banquet in 1997 in Brandon.
Great.
So we played a lot of tournaments, and we had a league there. Believe it or not, there was, I think, 10 teams in our league. Every little hamlet had a ball team in those days, and that was, besides pitching hay and milking cows, it was playing baseball.
What kind of fields did you play on those days?
Well, they were not the best groomed fields like we see in many communities today. They were a little rough around the edges.
Mm-hmm. What we would call cow pasture fields?
Yes, there were several of those.
And what position did you play mostly? We don't know much about your playing career compared to your career later on in involvement.
Well, I played infield, shortstop, and second base. I did some pitching, played some outfield. When I first started, I was only 16 years old. There was no minor ball in those days, and so I just played wherever I could fit in. And later I developed to become a pretty good pitcher. I was a fastball pitcher in the I guess it'd be 50, 51, in the 50s there, and I relied primarily on a high hard one.
So did you teach your younger brother then how to pitch? Was that?
No, I couldn't lay any claim to him. He was a much better pitcher than I, and he lasted a lot longer because he used his head, and he had a tremendous curveball. Mm-hmm. So he'll tell you that he might have been a little on the lazy side, but he was smart like a fox.
Yeah, tell me about your dad. He was a big influence on, as you say, you played ball with him on the team, actually.
Yes. Well, he caught till he was 50 years old. Very strong man. Worked hard. He would be out in the fields and doing the chores in the morning and early in the morning and late at night so we could go and play ball. Good, very highly regarded man. Good.
So once you left McConnell, what did your baseball career take you to?
Went to Hamiota as a school teacher. The couple of trustees come out and they said they were looking for a teacher who knew something about sports, which made me feel good. And so I went there and spent 5 wonderful years. I had great athletes to work with, great parents, and we did well. We won 7 provincial championships in 5 years there, 3 of them in 1957. And we played a lot of tournament ball, and the MSBL was started in those days in 61, I guess it was.
Right.
We were one of the original teams, and in fact, we won the pennant there for about 3 or 4 years to start with. But Hamiota treated me very well, and a lot of wonderful memories there about very good athletes, very determined, and we're good friends today.
Good, good. And you've been several places in the province, lived and taught and worked and carried ball there in those towns.
Yeah, wherever I went, I always thought that education and recreation and sports were all rolled into one, and so wherever my work took me, I played in Cardale and Foxwarren and Miami, and then we bought the Winnipeg Gold Eyes uniforms in 1964, and I was the playing coach there for 2 or 3 years.
This
is in Carman.
Carman, okay. Yes. And what league were you participating in then?
Carman, 1 year we had a team called the Carman Cubs, and we played and won the Winnipeg Senior League, and that was a good league. They had about 8 teams in there, and we wanted to play off with, I think it was at Hamiota that time. I was really looking forward to that, but Hamiota chickened out on us. Their American imports went home. So that was basically it. And then we moved to Souris. I played 1 year there with the Souris Cardinals in the Senior League, and that had been about 20 years I'd been as a player, and I was pretty well the end of the line as a player.
But it certainly wasn't the end of the line as in your baseball career, because you certainly got involved and were heavily involved in coaching and administration. So what were some of the things that you did there that...
Well, I always was coaching wherever I was. Some of our teams were very good, and some of them were quite mediocre. I remember in Warren, when we lived there, I had a midget team. We won the Manitoba Championship. We went to Tsawwassen, BC, and in the Western Canada, and then 2 weeks later flew to Windsor to the Nationals. And one of the guys I remember there playing in that team was a guy called Larry Walker.
Oh yes,
he was a kid about 17 years old then, and he causes a lot of problems.
Yes.
Others, Warren, Souris, we had a team that played Nipawin here in the Western Canada tournament 1 year. Teams, well, of course, the big memory was in Hamiota. We won 3 championships there in 1 year.
You were also involved with the first Pan Am Games baseball team, I believe.
Yes, that came late. We were having the Pan American Games in Carman and Winnipeg and Portage, and we were told that there would be no baseball because we didn't have any national team and very poor organization. So anyway, at the ninth hour, Jerry McKay from Brand and myself were appointed to try to scrounge up a Canadian team, which we did. We went to the Maritimes and Quebec and Ontario, and we came up with a group of guys that we didn't know what we were getting in. We thought when we were playing the United States and Cuba, we may never get these guys out. We'd see Juan Marichal and some of these fellas, but it started out, and the guys gave it their all and made a pretty good impression. And today, Canada is going to the Olympic Games, and they would not be going to the Olympic Games if it wasn't for that team of local guys that we put together and played in the Pan American Games and beat Cuba. That was the first time they'd been beaten in 12 years of international competition.
Well, that's certainly quite an accomplishment. And that was back in 1967?
67, yes.
And that was in Winnipeg, was it?
Most of the games were played in Winnipeg. I remember very distinctly the game in Carman. We played in a rainstorm, and they were broadcasting the game back live to Havana, Cuba. And we got a jump on them, and they didn't want to call the game because that would be a loss. But anyway, we out-snookered them 10-9. But when you, Gladys, he'll tell you, likely the best game he ever pitched, he pitched against them in Winnipeg, and he went 6-4 with them in a 9-inning game in a hot afternoon there. And another guy, Ron Stead, I got a telegram from him recently to go to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, and he pitched against Mexico. excellent left-handed pitcher, and they beat us 3-1. And then the next night in Carmen, we beat Puerto Rico 3-2. And all the baseball said, well, this is not supposed to happen. We better start checking here. And they found out 2 or 3 of these guys that played a few games in Class D ball, and so they were kicked out of the village.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
That was on Canadian team?
That was on the Canadian.
Oh.
That was our first Canadian national team. And so, yeah, that was a memorable moment.
That's quite a difference. Nowadays, they take major league players to the Olympic Games and national tournaments.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to make a statement. In hockey, I remember in the 60s, Canada canceled the World Tournament in Winnipeg because Russia was bringing in their guys that played all year round. They were professionals,
Right.
only they were soldiers in the Russian army. And we had to use our guys that played, Friday night and Saturday night hockey. And we had to do the same thing in baseball. We said, hey, these Americans and these Cubans are all professional ball players, so it ain't fair.
No, good. Now, since you've been involved in baseball for, well, I want to say 60 years, I guess, or 70 years.
60 years this year,
Yeah.
from 1948.
Well, there must be some changes you've noticed in baseball over that period. Could you comment on that at all?
Oh, yes. Well, I'd comment on 3 when I was president of the Manitoba Baseball Association from, it was 83 to 87. I helped bring in what I call 3 major changes to baseball in Manitoba. One was to create an awards banquet. The first one was in 84, and I knew if we didn't have an awards banquet, there would be nobody attend the annual meeting. So it's grown to be a fairly good thing. Another thing we did is started a 3rd level of competition. They used to have A and B, and we started a 3rd level, C, for the lesser talented ball players and for the smaller communities. And today it's not called A, B, and C. It's called AAA, AA, and Single A. And then another thing we brought in, this is 25 years ago, was the reentry rule. It only went into Bantam, but pretty well every league in Manitoba uses it now because every coach will tell you that they have 2 main goals for coaching. Number 1 is they want to win the game. And number 2, they'd like to get their guys into the game. And you see teams there with 15, 18 guys and put them in for a few innings. And the reentry rule allows you to substitute the starting lineup with the exception of the pitcher and the DH and get guys in for an inning or 2 and they'll come back.
Good.
So those were 3 changes. And I would say over the years the coaching has become much better due to the clinics that we held and things like that.
What about on the field? What is differences in the game on the field?
There are good ball players, good teams today in the 2000s, but back in the 50s and the 40s, there were a lot more very good ball players because there was nothing else to do. Whereas today guys branch into golf and summer hockey and swimming and things like that. So we don't have the number of good ball players and teams that we used to have when I first started.
Great. Now, one thing we didn't mention in introducing you is that you were also a Major League Scout, I believe, for a couple of teams at one time or another. How do you become a Major League Scout?
Yes, that was very interesting. When I was because I was president of Baseball Manitoba, I got involved with Baseball Canada, and Bobby Prentice was with the Blue Jays at that time, and so he picked me up as a scout for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I scouted for 8 years. And then he passed on, a new guy came in, and he got, in fact, Glennis and I both used to scout for Toronto, and when this new guy came in, Bill Bitzkowski was his name, and he let the old guys go and brought in a new crop, and then I went with Bill Clark and the Atlanta Braves. And that was interesting. I got to go to the training camp in West Palm Beach twice, tremendous experience there to see Tom Gladwyn and all these high rollers there. And so the 15 years with the Atlanta Braves and Toronto were good. Toronto even, I love them because they took us to the World Series. Oh, they won the World Series in 92 and 93, and they flew the scouts in to see the games.
Oh, great.
So that was a real perk.
Yes. Great.
So great experience, met great people, and great learning experience.
Great. Well, thank you, Gladwyn, and congratulations on your recent induction into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. That's about the highest honor that anyone can receive in Canada for their baseball contributions. So congratulations on that.
Thanks very much, Joe. And we're really looking forward. We're flying down to St. Mary's where it is, and I'm looking forward to meeting one of my idols, Tony Fernandez.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be there. But with my 60 years, it was a great experience with the Blue Jays and Team Canada, but still my greatest memories are with the grassroots.
That's wonderful, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.